Today's hot topic, my friends, is this poor little blondie who just got fired from the Chinese version of Twitch T. He was the top-tier Discord moderator, the one who knew how to help the girls make more money at their jobs. Naturally, they were all interested in doing favors for him. However, now that Hang Sing-won has been fired and is struggling to make ends meet, nobody wants anything to do with him. But don't worry, because the refless system has arrived. All our hero has to do is spend money on the gold diggers. But hold on, it's not what you think. This time, the goal isn't to win them over or make them regret anything. And our boy is a true Sigma because as soon as he got a little money, those girls from Timu all wanted to get close to him again. Now, our boy is going to have to focus because there's the usual redhead, that other girl, and another one who, for the love of God, is a descendant of Rimuru Tempest. She's a slime girl who, with just 3 moves, is already dripping. And that's how it is. So, how does our hero survive all this brutality being thrown at him? That's what we're about to find out. So, without further ado, let's get into it. What's the deal, boss? Man, I just need 2 days off. My family is going through a tough time. I promise when I get back, I'll make it worth your while, Hang Sing-won pleaded. The boss, however, scoffs at the idea of taking time off. What's this nonsense about a break? The company is full of problems to solve. Man, nobody can take a vacation. The scoundrel says this while watching some woman in a black skirt shaking it from side to side. He'd just been taken care of by her and almost died from the pleasure. Meanwhile, our protagonist is trying to explain that his mother is sick and in the hospital. Someone has to take care of the old woman. But the boss replies, "You damn kid, don't you have a father? Put him to work taking care of her. She's not married to you." As the scumbag says this, the woman thanks him for the rocket he gave her. Our boy is clenching his fists. The boss continues, saying that at the rate he's been working, how can he ever expect to move up in his career? Young people these days are too delicate, he complains, always talking about sick relatives and wanting to take vacations. He then tells the kid to get out of his office and get back to work in the media industry. Man, you always have to be on top of the trends. There's no time for taking breaks. Or better yet, you want to rest. Then why don't you do this? Just quit, you fool. You graduated from a third-rate university and were lucky to land a job at a big company like this. Since you're so ungrateful for this opportunity, why not just retire, huh? Then you can take every single day off. The scene changes. Our boy is outside, smoking a cigarette to shorten his lifespan, when his phone rings. It's his father. Hang Sing-won, you damn kid. When are you coming back? At the same time his father is speaking, a fit-looking nurse can be heard in the background, warning him that it's the same old story. If he doesn't pay the bill, his wife will be discharged from the hospital. The father immediately asks his son if he can send the money. But our protagonist was just about to tell him that he'd been fired. Instead, he tells his father not to worry, that he's coming home, and will figure out a way to get the money to pay the bills. However, this father is a good man. It's alright, son, he says. If you can't, that's okay too. We can ask some relatives and friends for help. The insurance will cover some of it too. But Hang Sing-won knows that's a lie. They had already asked everyone for money. There was no one left to borrow from. That they were stuck in a polite standoff, each trying to be the more considerate one. His father insisted, "No, son, you've already graduated. Don't mess up your life now." Hang Sing-won, however, takes a look at his bank account. He has 50,000 Chinese yuan. That's enough to buy maybe 2 Nestle chocolate bars, and he can't believe he was fired in a situation like this. He walks into her, and 20 minutes later, it's official. The boy is unemployed. He can't believe he actually quit in a situation like this, where getting a job is so difficult. He really was a little crazy, wasn't he? But a real man doesn't accept humiliation like that. However, the reckless system appears, for taking an action that goes against what his ancestors would do. He is rewarded with 88,000 Chinese yuan, approximately $12,000 US. Hang is confused, wondering what that notification sound was and what this strange window in front of him is. The system simply tells him to enjoy the money. At that, he pulls out his phone to check his bank account, and there it is. A deposit of 88,000 yuan had been credited to his account. And the system tells its master not to be scared, because things have only just begun. Our hero is thinking to himself, man, if I hadn't seen this 88,000 in my account with my own 2 eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. But what is this live freely business? Whatever it is, I'm going to find an opportunity to test it. That's when a woman in incredibly short shorts walks up, wanting to know what he's thinking. And man, what a warrior she is, with only about 2 of her body covered by clothing. Her name is Gayan, and she's a dancer on the streaming platforms. She wants to know if he's ready for the stream. Our boy can't even think straight. The poor bastard, he's completely lost. Blood is already starting to drip from his nose. She tells him to stop getting distracted, but look at the angle she's coming at him from. This is because, as he handles the marketing, she wants him to talk to the higher ups to free up more investment for her. Our protagonist notes that online, she's the queen of dances. And those kinds of dances. The only problem, and the best part about her, is that she likes to play around a lot. I assume by play around he means telling jokes, right? I certainly hope so. He then apologizes and tells her that he will no longer be managing influencers. Suddenly, her expression changes completely. She wants to know why he's saying this out of the blue. Our protagonist knows this vixen only gave him the time of day, because he managed her account. Now, however, it's time for them to go their separate ways. He doesn't care about her anymore. However, Win gets closer and says that even if he's no longer her administrator, she doesn't trust anyone else to take care of her. She's putting on this act, but inwardly she's thinking, you bastard, why aren't my cute techniques working today? Meanwhile, Hang is resolute. He knows this woman was only using him to make more profit, and now he doesn't have to put up with it anymore. So goodbye. However, he's getting an eyeful of her 2 fireballs, and she asks which company he's going to, and if they are going to be competitors now. Our MC is trying to maintain his innocence, but it's getting difficult. He decides to motivate himself with the system's money. If it's real, then there's no woman in this world he can't have. Not to mention, the one in front of him has had a lot of plastic surgery. Out of nowhere, he says that her nose is a bit crooked. Why would he do that? Why, complete waste. It's like serving a steak to a vegan. The poor girl turns completely red and immediately pulls out a mirror, saying it's impossible. However, strangely, she comes to the conclusion that it really does look a little crooked, and the system congratulates him for refusing to be the woman's lapdog. For such a reckless act, he earns another 23,000 yuan. As soon as the money hits his account, he begins to understand what absolute freedom truly means. He had to do whatever he wanted, and that included rejecting these kinds of manipulative players. This scares me a little, because while I don't want the protagonist to be a simp, I don't want him to never score a goal, you know. For God's sake, we're in China, kid. Have some honor. Then, the young woman, who seems to have a problem with her spine since she can't stand up straight, leans in and says she hopes they can collaborate in the future. Wang is impressed. He pointed out her flaws, and the girl is just standing there, cool as a cucumber, without a care in the world. She then simply says that she hopes they can remain friends and that if he has trouble finding a job, he should just send her a message. Hang Sing-Wang is left completely speechless, unable to understand a thing. The damn girl completely turned the tables on him. She really didn't seem like such a bad person after all. Thinking this, he says that since it's his last day, he'll treat her to a farewell dinner, and it won't be at a bad place. She seems a bit embarrassed by the offer. He tells her he has already packed his things, says goodbye, and hits the street. Before, taking an Uber was a luxury for our boy, but now, he orders a bowl. He's impressed with these apps for rich people. The car arrives in just 3 minutes. The driver tells him to get in. The system immediately congratulates him for spending so much when he has so little. A truly reckless act, for which he earns another 50,000 yuan. Our boy then asks the driver to stop at a pancake stand. When he gets out of the car, the old lady running the stand recognizes him. Oh, my boy, you want the usual pancake. No egg or sausage, since you're so poor. However, he tells her to hold on. Today, the man wants egg and sausage. Good heavens. What is this guy ordering on the street? It's impossible. Is the apocalypse coming and I just don't know it? Everyone is stunned that he's buying a loaded pancake. And he's just standing there, feeling himself with his hands in his pockets while everyone thinks, damn, he's the man. The system gives him 20,000 yuan for this. Oh my god. This world is messed up. I don't want to be part of this universe. Or maybe I do. Because the rewards keep coming. A golden opportunity. He celebrates by saying that next time, he'll get 5 eggs. He says nothing more. Devours the whole thing, throws the wrapper in the trash, and arrives in front of the K-team building. He slaps his forehead, realizing he could have just eaten there, which would have been much better. Not to mention, he still has to get ready for his dinner with Wen. While wandering the area, he spots a store that looks like a fake Adidas shop from a distance, but it's not. Feeling bold, he decides to look around and finds a Louis Vuitton store. Inside, only stunning saleswomen are working, and they immediately notice him. Messy hair, baggy clothes, an old phone, discount brand clothing, and worn-out shoes. Whoa, son, that's a whole look. You're crazy. Not even Chap could roast this. He immediately notices their stares. Hey, you wenches, are you really going to ignore me like this? They pretend he doesn't exist, and he realizes he's being humiliated. He sighs, man, I was so tired from work today. Use arrow up and arrow down to select a term, enter to jump to it, and escape to return to the chat. I came to spend 150,000 yuan. Since nobody is going to help me, I guess I'll just go to the harem store instead. The moment money was mentioned, the saleswomen seemed to multiply, rushing over to ask what he wanted to buy. In that second, our protagonist realizes that money truly is everything in this world. A short while later, he's leaving the store in a new outfit. He's impressed that he doesn't even have to carry his own bags. A saleswoman follows him, carrying everything. She's already trying to get friendly, talking about a jewelry event. But he realizes the wretched woman just wants him to spend more money and says his goodbyes. Even so, she maintains a smile and wishes him a great day. Meanwhile, all the gold diggers around them see him with shopping bags from the luxury stores. At that exact moment, the system once again praises him for his recklessness, spending money frivolously while his mother is in the hospital. 650,000 yuan is deposited into his account. The system is right, the kid's mother is dying in the hospital, and he's out at the mall spending a fortune. Now, we cut to the date. As soon as he arrived, a stunning hostess told him to come with her, leading him to the VIP area where he could wait for his friends. He notices that when you're dressed in high-end clothes, you don't have to do anything. You just show up and are immediately escorted to the best seats. She says goodbye to our boy, who then looks out over the city from above, like a view from Google Maps, and thinks about how differently he's being treated. The second he said he was going to spend money in the store, everything changed. As long as you have enough of it, you can do whatever you want in this world. And now, all the fantasies he's had in his mind could finally become a reality. He finally remembers he has a family, and transfers 100,000 yuan to his father. Whoa, what a crumb. He just got 600,000 and only sent a sixth of it to his mother. Don't eat it all in one place. The scene changes to when. Good heavens, she must be friends with Renure Tempest. The girl is like a slime, all glistening and sweaty. And anyone who's read stories that melt your cerebellum knows it's time for things to get heated. She announces she's ending the live stream for the day. This girl has accessories all the way down to her feet. She throws herself into a chair, exhausted. The rest of the engineers and scientists appear, wanting to know what they're going to eat today. She says she's going out, and another girl immediately assumes it must be with a rich guy, a sugar daddy. However, she says it's not, and reveals that it's our boy, Hang Sing-wang. The Nessa prodigies are impressed that she hasn't forgotten the boy. However, good heavens, this girl was drawn to perfection from every possible angle. She insists it's just a friendly dinner, nothing more, and that she has no special interest in him. The engineer friend says she wants to go too. The slime girl agrees, but tells them not to order anything expensive since Hang Sing-wang is paying. However, the red-headed scientist knows the boy is poor, and now that he's trying to act rich, she's going to ruin his little career. The slime girl says she's going to get ready and tells everyone to come along. Later, in the parking lot, the engineer is complaining about her work struggles. Our slime girl tells her to dance more, but she refuses, saying she's just waiting to find a rich guy to get her out of this life. Another friend mocks her, saying she's dreaming too big and is already lucky she doesn't have to sleep with men for money. The girl snaps back, telling her not to provoke her and that everyone is allowed to dream. The other retorts that dreaming is fine, but it won't become a reality. She then asks where they're having dinner. When the slime girl looks at her phone, she seems shocked. Her friends are sure it must be such a cheap place that she's embarrassed to say the name. Just spit it out, one of them says. She reveals the name, King Tian, a super famous 3 Michelin star restaurant. It costs 3,000 yuan per person, and getting a reservation is nearly impossible. Instantly, another friend thinks she must have made a mistake, while another assumes that Hang Sing-wang must have suddenly become successful. The cold-hearted redhead, however, remains skeptical, suggesting it must be some other cheap place nearby with a similar name. The slime girl tells her to stop judging him, but the redhead just says, fine, he's a good person on the inside, still fully expecting them to be humiliated. But since they're already there, they hit the road. On the way, one of them is impressed by how stable the boom is. Another friend gives advice on how to make more money on live streams. You have a lot of fans, she says, you just have to learn how to make money from them. She demonstrates a little move, saying you just have to accidentally let something show, and then give it a little squeeze. All she has to do is lower her standards a bit, and the rockets will come flooding in non-stop. Hey, she just revealed her weak point, one of them remarked. The girl admits that while she does the live streams now, if a rich guy came along, she would become a housewife in an instant. The coldest one of them all is the first to be defeated. However, she wants to know why the slime girl is so quiet. She replies that it's not worth depending on someone else, because then you'll never be an independent woman and will always be at that person's mercy. The money vampire tells her to stop killing the vibe, all the while thinking that the hypocrite says this while performing the most daring dances she's ever seen. The slime girl retorts that she prefers to do all that and earn her own money rather than live at someone else's expense. As they get out of the car, one of them asks if it wouldn't be better to double-check the address. They must have gotten it wrong. Her friend agrees. They'll be embarrassed if they go inside only to find out it's the wrong place. She tries calling him, but Hang Sing-won doesn't answer. Now she's certain that the boy is tricking all three of them. And you're one of them, she thinks. The slime girl wonders if he's just busy, but the redhead says they've probably been fooled. Still, she suggests they can go upstairs just to see if he's really there. She agrees it's fine. As they enter the elevator, she thinks about how crazy it was to believe that the boy, who had a phone just as beaten up as theirs, would be paying for a place like this. When she gets to the door, she cranes her neck to peek inside. She can't seem to see anyone. The worst part is that he isn't answering his phone. Suddenly, someone appears behind them and asks if they have a reservation. They hesitate for a second, but the redhead steps forward and says yes. With no way to back out, Wen says the reservation is under the name Qingding. This wretched redhead knows the boy's salary must be around 5,000 yuan. Considering the price per person, he would have to work for 3 or 4 months just for this one night. She wants to see if this is real. To her surprise, the receptionist says that Mr. Aang has been waiting for them for a while. She stands there, confused. This redhead is a true happiness, fucking vampire. She's angry at the slime girl now, thinking that all the damn girl does is dance with her amazing moves and still has a legion of fans willing to pay for everything for her. But this is the perfect chance. She will make Hang Sing-won lose face for not having the money, and the slime girl will suffer for not being taken care of. The woman tells them to get into the elevator, and now one of them is hesitant, saying it could just be someone with the same last name. What if they meet someone they've never seen before? Normally the elevator is for VIPs only, and a seat in there costs around 10,000 yuan per person. The slime girl can't believe it, but now the redhead is certain. Even if that kid had saved for an entire year, he wouldn't have the money for a night like this. She is anxious to see the shame he's about to go through. Just then, our radiant attendant opens the door and tells them to come in. The clueless girls wonder if Singan is really there. One of them decides to snap a quick photo, thinking that since they're in the VIP area, it's better to get at least one picture for social media before they're kicked out. However, the redhead vampire tells her to take the photo alone. She doesn't want to be part of such an embarrassing moment. The more humble friend decides to take a selfie anyway. The redhead impatiently asks where the boy is, as they're already making a scene. The beautiful attendant knocks on a private room door, telling the boy that his guests have arrived. The slime girl is about to say that they should probably leave, feeling they got carried away thinking he would be there. Just as the redhead is certain the boy isn't going to show up, the legend emerges. It's him, the man who won't spend on his dying mother but will spend a fortune on 3 beautiful women at a restaurant. A true hero. He says he woke up to their calls. Did you miss me, by any chance? He asks. He then turns to the stunning attendant, and tells her to start serving everything. The girls are comparing the incredible before and after. Apparently, opening his jacket was the secret. And it seems to be a powerful secret, because one of the girls practically has a fit. Her hips even tremble. The friend comments that one is wearing several designer brands. His jacket alone costs 40,000 yuan. The redhead recognizes everything as being from Louis Vuitton. Where did this scoundrel get something like that? The slime girl immediately gets close to him, saying they took a while. Our boy, says he to her and the other friend. He then turns and asks, and who's this crooked fool here? My name is Kanemi, she says. Okay. You look very different without the tic-tac filter. Ouch, a brutal takedown. She seethes but says it's fine, her makeup is just a little light today. The slime girl explains that they are her work friends, and she didn't think it would be a problem. Before he can say anything, a procession of identical waiters enters, bringing all the food. The quality of the steak is top-notch. She wonders how this Sing Kang is paying for all of this. Her friend whispers that he must be some rich kid from a secret family who was just pretending to be an honest worker. Meanwhile, the slime girl is beginning her Rimuru Tempest transformation, as she says she has no idea. The protagonist, however, is disappointed with the food's appearance, saying it doesn't look very appetizing. The other friend, however, wants to take pictures. Sure, go ahead, my dear, he says. As the camera flashes, the redhead wants to know if the slime girl lied to them, and already knew about all of this. She explains that she had no idea, even though she's known one for a while. She only ever talked to him when it was time to make posts about the live streams. She remembered him taking a taxi one time and wondered if he was a low-profile, second-generation rich kid. He probably doesn't like women paying for anything for him, and had no choice but to reveal his wealth. Just then, Hang looked at the dishes and asked if they didn't have anything more common. He wanted something that would actually fill him up. Fang Qian, the humble one, praised him, saying that food from rich restaurants always leaves her hungry. She was glad he was going to order something decent. The waitress, however, offered a truffle beef with roast salmon, a liver with pineapple, and a steak from some kind of lizard. Hang said that just hearing the names killed his appetite. Don't you just a steak? Just cut some meat, and put it on the pan. Fang Qian said she was impressed. It was the first time she had seen someone with such a humble request in a chic restaurant. It was an eye-opening experience. The redhead, however, said that if you're not ready to eat good food, you shouldn't have come to a place like this in the first place. She was completely confused. To her, he was either someone who had recently become rich or an imposter. It just didn't make sense. Then, the protagonist ordered some barbecue skewers. The waitress was taken aback, a look of defense on her face as she explained that they had nothing of the sort on the menu. Then call the manager, he said. I'll have a word with him. The woman was startled by his courage. A moment later, a man with a dangerous-looking mustache appeared, explaining that it was a French restaurant, and they served French cuisine. The redhead thought to herself that he was done for now. A French restaurant would never accept such a ridiculous request. But Hang Xingwan proved her wrong by offering 300,000 yuan, plus an extra 50,000 as a tip. The amount of money was so shocking that the women were left cross-eyed. The man with the mustache immediately said, just ask, and I'll do it. Our boy thanked him but said he preferred him to keep his aggressive vibe. The man adjusted his glasses, and assured him it would be taken care of. The system then informed Hang that if he continued to break the restaurant's rules, he would earn 500,000 yuan. He turned back to the best food on the table and said that a restaurant is a place to eat, relax, and be at ease. Fang Qian agreed, thinking it's much better to eat good food and actually get full. A line of waiters enter, bringing the barbecue skewers he had ordered. The girls were confused. With money, you really could force anyone to do whatever you wanted. Fang Qian even decided to take a picture. It was unbelievable that she was eating kebabs and skewers in a Michelin-star restaurant. Hang then called the 3 meals over to eat, asking who was ready to fill their stomachs. A short time later, everything had been devoured. He dabbed his mouth with a napkin and excused himself to go to the bathroom. As soon as he left, the girls started talking. They noted that his clothes alone were worth 5 times more than his mother's life. Why would a guy like that, working at their company, be interested in the slime girl? She replied that she wasn't that charming, and suggested he must have gone crazy after being fired. But Fang Qian said that was impossible. He had to be a second-generation rich kid. Generation who decided to experience more of life. The vampire immediately wants to know if the slime girl has already made a move on him. Fang Qian says that if a guy with that much money did something like that for her, her heart wouldn't be able to take it. She notes that Wen is being very calm for someone in this situation, and must be hiding something from her friends. The slime girl says she's going crazy, insisting she had no idea about any of this. Besides, she has no feelings for the boy. She's never had a private interaction with him, and had no idea he was so rich. He was just a modest worker at the company who even did overtime occasionally. He seemed like a dedicated person, so she never would have imagined it. The vampire, Shinyo, says that nowadays many guys max out their credit cards to maintain a false image. Maybe he was the opposite, pretending to be humble when in fact he had a lot of money. Fang Qian agrees that it makes sense, but there's no way for them to know for sure. Of course, the vampire says it's easy to test just how rich he is. The slime girl, however, says she's being far too intrusive. He's already paying for this extremely luxurious place, so there's no reason to push him further. But Shinyo, with her standard dismissive smile, tells the damn girl to stop being so naive. She shouldn't underestimate her own value. As popular streamers, many men would be interested in spending money on them. She might not realize it, but she was being emotionally manipulated by Hang, who is pretending to be poor to lure her into a trap where he appears to be an honest boy. Wen replies that it's fine. She has no interest in developing a romantic relationship with him. But Shinyo says to just follow her lead and not to worry. The next scene, the four of them are in the parking lot. Wen is a little worried, afraid her crazy friend might do something rash to Hang. Feinkian, however, comes forward with an honest question. She wants to know if he has a girlfriend. He replies that he doesn't, saying he's been single since birth, a genuine lone wolf in the romance department. The girl looked confused. He explains that he was focused on his career, so he didn't have much time to worry about dating. With that, the vampire leans into the car, saying she knows a place with a great atmosphere for some drinks. With an invitation like that, Hang simply accepts, and they hit the road. The slime girl is very quiet, and Hang is already thinking about saving up a lot of money and opening his own media company. Considering how much he understands about the industry, it's not hard to believe he could succeed. Besides, he could get access to celebrities. As soon as they stop the car, Shinyo warns that the prices there are a bit exorbitant, so it's best to be careful. If I end up drinking too much, you won't mind, right? She asks. The blonde friend answers for our boy, saying no, she can drink whatever she wants. At that moment, our boy sees another fool walking around with two women on his arm and seems excited. This is a bar full of famous celebrities, and he's eager to meet several for the company he's already planning to build. Meanwhile, the Fantastic Four are standing off to the side. Our boy, a former begging bum, starts things off by ordering a margarita, and the other two follow with their own orders. Then, the redhead turns to our boy, anxious to expose his lack of money. What do you want? She asks. He seems disinterested, and she asks again what he's going to order. He says that anything is fine, he doesn't really care. The redhead then orders a Long Island iced tea, a notoriously strong drink. Her friend is startled, but the redhead innocently says, it's a bar. Let's drink. Everyone around them is dancing wildly. This place is really expensive, but it's worth it, one of the girls said. The oily slime girl came over, telling her friend to know when to stop. However, the vampire was eager to expose the boy, saying that if he wanted to act rich, he had to have the money to back it up. She called out to Hang Singwang, who was looking around, more interested in finding future business partners than anything else. She grew angry that he was ignoring her. He turned, unconcerned, and asked if she had called him. She said he seemed a bit uninterested and suggested they play a dice game. He didn't know it and asked how to play. Wearing a smug look, she explained that it was very easy, but she would make it more fun. Whoever lost had to remove a piece of clothing. Hang just chuckled, stood up, and said he knew very well that she was a professional at this game. He reminded her that he used to manage a good part of the company and could see she was trying to either get money out of him or make him look like a fool. The girl was stunned, completely thrown off balance. He continued, saying she must have thought there was no way he, a kid who earned $5,000 a month, could have any real money. He had let things slide until now because he didn't want to completely embarrass her. The system congratulated our boy for not being the damn girl's fool and for mercilessly exposing her plans. Then the protagonist revealed that he wasn't from a rich family. The wretched girl celebrated, saying she knew it all along and that he was just pretending. He told her to be quiet, as he wasn't finished. He looked her in the eye and said that while he might not be from a rich family, he had enough money. Since she wanted to play the dice game so badly, how about 300,000 yuan for her to leave without a single piece of clothing on? The fool blushed, saying he was exaggerating. The slime girl told our boy to calm down, that her friend was just joking. But Shinyo had no limits. She said there was no way he had 300,000 yuan. At that, Hang shouted to the entire bar that anyone could get any drink they wanted because he was putting 300,000 yuan on his card as credit for everyone. The bartender immediately approved the transaction, giving a thumbs up as the crowd cheered, thanking the kind stranger. The system then congratulated our boy with a reward of 66,666,666 yuan while the girl stood there, disbelieving that he had just spent 300,000. He walked past the stunned redhead and told her it was best if she calmed down, and started respecting him more, even though he used to be poor. Furthermore, he left her with a lesson: those who look too much at others' wallets are easily humiliated by money. The girl was so shaken she couldn't speak. Her friend even noticed that her foundation had been rocked. She stood up, said she had things to take care of, and left. With her gone, Hang decided it was finally time to play the dice game. But this world doesn't offer a second of peace. Another red-haired woman appeared to cause trouble, saying that Gan, our dear slime girl, must have had a bad live stream and was there to cry about it. Gang turned and replied that she wasn't on the clock and they could talk about it later. The woman slapped her hand away, telling her to stop acting innocent, considering the exotic moves she does in her dances. Why do you pretend to be so pure? She taunted. Gan slapped her hand back and told her to back off, that what she does for her business is none of her concern. The troublemaker felt the pressure but told her not to be so distant. She then sat down next to her, saying this was a perfect opportunity for a live stream. Internet celebrities always have to be trending, she said. And with that, she started her stream, welcoming her viewers and announcing that she was sitting next to her friend Gan, who didn't seem very happy. She was trying to bait her into a battle, a streamer duel to see who could earn more money. Gan's viewers started messaging her, telling her not to be afraid and that they would guarantee her victory. It turned out that Pain-haired girl was the dancer, and she was eager to use this opportunity to claim the top spot. Just then, the slime girl received a call. It was the owner of her company, ordering her to start the stream now and not lose the opportunity, while she was trending. She wasn't in the mood, but the man told her she had no choice. She was paid for this. If she didn't start streaming, she better know what would happen. The pink-haired girl taunted her live viewers, saying she was sure Gan would accept she was such a hard-working girl. She turned to Gan and asked if she was scared. But at that, the slime girl looked prepared. The frantic battle began. The pink-haired girl immediately started receiving a shower of rockets, while poor Gan, a bit drunk and shaken, moved awkwardly. Her viewers started to wonder if she used special effects in her studio, because now, in the club, she was falling flat. In the live stream comments, many people were already aware that the poor streamer, Liu Kleinkian, had been shaking her butt back and forth all day. Our protagonist, Hang Xingwang, noticed that they were playing dirty with the poor girl, and a gentleman like him couldn't let her suffer. He unleashed a barrage of rockets, leaving her covered in a slimy mess. She was melting and thanking her big bro supporter when 4, 5, or even 6 more rockets appeared. The girl continued to express her gratitude, and now the pink-haired streamer, Liu Yuxi, had even stopped her dance, bewildered and wanting to know who this new big bro was that was sending so many gifts. Her viewers were even curious about the identity of the guy investing so much. While the slime girl Liu Kleinkian remained oily and slick, thanking her viewers, she couldn't help but think it was becoming excessive. Who was this madman who had already donated enough to save his mother from the hospital 10 times over? It was indeed Hang Xingwang. For his extravagant spending with no ulterior motives, he earned another 5 million. For those who say it doesn't make sense, perhaps a child stole their father's phone and pressed the button by mistake. But now, with another 5 million in his account, he unleashed another shower of gifts. Liu Kleinkian, overwhelmed, begged him to take it easy because the donations just wouldn't stop, and she was worried about having a panic attack. Meanwhile, one of the other top supporters, a man known as Old King, was trying to turn the tables by sending a rocket shower of his own to Liu Yuxi. She was getting excited, exclaiming that gifts were finally coming her way too. She thanked Old King for everything he always does for her, truly one of her best supporters. This King had been asking her for a complete video for a long time. Xingwang, however, wasn't going to miss the chance to be a hero and save Liu Kleinkian from this predicament. The rocket barrage continued as he thought he would have to take this seriously. Clicking furiously, he used a rapid clicking technique to donate even faster. The system, once again appreciating his madness, awarded him another 10 million. After so many rockets, Liu Kleinkian was declared the winner, thanking everyone for their support. However, out of nowhere, Xingwang sent another 1,000 rockets, receiving a 1 million bonus. The slime girl was a bit confused but thanked him, saying it wasn't necessary and even asked him to stop donating, reminding him that everyone is just an honest worker in this world and she didn't deserve so much. While she celebrated, the other streamer, Liu Yuxi, stood there, completely baffled by what had just happened. Who was this guy? In the end, she had provoked a contest and was publicly humiliated. Hang Xingwang, however, simply got up and said it was getting late and he was going to bed. He also called out to Miss Liu Yuxi and told her not to be discouraged, mentioning she was very pretty too and that a big bro would surely appear to ask her for a little video soon. The man seemed to know everything. The girls in his group commented that those words must have hit her hard. Outside, Kleinkian remarked on how embarrassed Liu Yuxi must have been. Today, she finally learned what it meant to have the biggest supporter on the entire platform. However, she didn't understand why Liu Kleinkian wasn't more excited. Liu Kleinkian replied that she didn't deserve it. She had never seen that person on her live stream before, and he suddenly donated all that money. She felt that something strange was about to happen. Kleinkian told her to be more positive, suggesting he was surely just a very generous big bro. Liu Kleinkian then decided to send him a message. The moment she clicked send, Xingwang received a notification with the exact same sound from the streaming platform. The two girls looked back at him, and he claimed it was a coincidence. He had just been fired and couldn't possibly have that kind of money. Liu Qingqian mentioned he had spent a lot to buy drinks for everyone, but he retorted that buying drinks was one thing, and that flood of rockets was another entirely. He couldn't afford something like that. But then, Qingqian noted that the donnor's name had Wang in it, and his name was Hang Xingwang. Could it be him? Liu Qingqian told her to stop bothering him, and asked where he lived so she could give him a ride. However, being a man's man, he wasn't interested in getting a ride from a woman and said he would take a taxi. Just then, a clownish figure emerged from a car, saying he was lucky to find such a beauty outside. It was his former boss from the company. He recognized his old employee and sneered, "How can a failed employee like you have the nerve to be supported by women in a place like this?" Liu Qingqian interjected that Xingwan was the one who paid for everything that night. The boss was confused, telling her to stop joking. He called Xingwan a failure who didn't even have money to care for his mother in the hospital. Furthermore, he knew someone else had paid the bar tab for everyone, so she should drop the act. But then he added that he appreciated the boy's nerve. Even though he was a broke failure, he apparently had the gift of gab to win over a girl. An angry Qingqian told him to stop with the threats because she saw Xingwan pay for everything. However, the boss told her to shut up and stop thinking she was somebody, just because she had a few fans. He then revealed that all her fans were fake. He claimed she should have known. The company had spent a fortune to promote her, and most of the fans she had didn't even know who she was. All she does is put on makeup and think people will like her. Use arrow up and arrow down to select a turn, enter to jump to it, and escape to return to the chat. Basically, she is one of the employees who causes the most financial loss. She should learn to shake her tail on screen. Damn, that's harsh, someone comments. Suddenly, the boss turns to a streamer, Wing, and says he just remembered she is tired of being a dancing streamer. He suggests that if she does a little something for him, he might make a call to get her an acting role in a drama. His implication is clear. He wants to spend a night with her. At that moment, Hang Xingwan grabs the boss's hand, telling him to have more self-respect. The boss yanks his hand away and sneers at the young man. "Hey, kid, trying to be a hero. Dressed in fake loose futon, thinking you're something. Get out of here." However, Wang speaks up, telling the boss that if he bothers her one more time, she will terminate her contract. The boss finds this amusing, reminding her that she signed a 5-year contract with a full year remaining. Terminating it now would cost her a penalty of 10 million. Wang retorts that she earned more than enough today alone to cover the fee. The boss then crudely calls her a prostitute, saying that in ancient times she would have been called a courtesan, selling her body, not her art. As he advances on her, he declares that even if she pays, the company won't let her go. Now that they've made her famous, she will work for them forever. Hang Xingwang steps in front of her. "If she can't leave, then I'll buy the entire Mia company," he announces. "Then the one leaving won't be her, it will be you." Confused by the blonde kid's strange declaration, the boss claps him on the shoulder and says, "All right then. I'll be waiting for the day you buy a company." He leaves in a rage, muttering about the kid trying to act tough. Meanwhile, Wang's friend, Him, is devastated, having just discovered all her online fans are bots, similar to a scene from a Chinese click farm with hundreds of phones in one room. Wang takes her hand and reassures her, pointing out that she has genuine fans who donate significantly just for her makeup streams. She doesn't need to humiliate herself for the company. Wang then thanks Hang Xingwang, who says he shouldn't get into trouble for her sake. He simply replies, "I didn't like that guy either." She smiles and, before leaving, says she hopes he goes far in life. After she's gone, Hang Xingwang checks his earnings from the day's chaos, 109,000. It's more than enough to cover his mother's hospital bills many times over. The next morning at 6 a.m., loud knocking awakens Hang Xingwang. It's his landlady demanding the rent. She complains that people like him never pay on time, and that she has to hunt him down. Hang Xingwang simply scans a QR code on her shirt and pays a full year's rent in advance, 10,000, which lands in her account instantly. Stunned, she tries to maintain her composure while internally celebrating. She mentions an extra 400, and he tells her it's a bonus to not be bothered for a year before closing the door. Later, after his friend wonders if he won the lottery, Hang Xingwang receives a system notification. For standing up to the landlady's humiliation, he has been awarded a villa in Swampy City. The key materializes in his hand. Realizing his life is about to change, he rushes out, telling his confused friend that he won't be needing his old belongings. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Hang Xingwan's father tells his mother that their son sent 100,000, claiming it was from a new, well-paying job. His mother worries he's doing something illegal, but his father reassures her that their son is a kind boy. Just then, a relative with banana-colored hair enters, asking how she is feeling as her father offers her an apple. "Kid, what are you doing here?" Get back to your work before you get fired. However, Sangwon throws the truth right in their faces. I quit. His parents both stood up, startled, but quickly put on a supportive act. His father placed a hand on his son's shoulder, saying that he was so talented he would find something better soon. The ever-sweet Sangwon thought to himself that this family was truly his safe harbor. Sangwon then asked if his father had paid the hospital bills. His father, still with a hand on his shoulder, told him not to worry. He had only borrowed some money. Sure, Sangwon thought, soon the loan sharks will come to collect, cut off his head, and throw it in the river, but everything's fine, son. Keep spending at the club. Of course, his father didn't say that. But Sangwon wanted to know who he had borrowed the money from. He suspected it was from that uncle and aunt. Before his father could answer, Sangwon turned and told him to pay those two back immediately. His father told him not to worry, saying he would resolve it soon, and asked his son not to do anything too risky. Meanwhile, his mother cried, saying her illness was ruining both their lives. He worked so hard, and now he had to pay these hospital bills. Sangwon told them not to worry, that everything was fine. His new job was paying well, and the 100,000 was nothing. He added that he would get the best doctors to take care of her, and that they had nothing to worry about. Lastly, he said he would also resolve the issue with the uncle they borrowed money from, because it was not good to owe any favors to those people. Later, outside, he got on motorcycle tax and wondered why it was shaking so much. He recalled hearing that they were supposed to have repaired the roads in this area, so why was it still such a disaster? It seemed that whether it was China, Brazil, or the United States, politics was always the same. The muscular taxi driver told him that they had repaired it, but it ended up worse than before. It seemed the contractor had some shitty dealings with the officials, and this was the result of them trying to cut corners. Sangwon could only think that in this world, there were no real laws for the poor regions. They always got screwed when it came to politics. He arrived in front of a huge mansion. At first, you might think it was the one he received, but no, this one belonged to his relatives. Sangwon thought that if those bastards hadn't stolen the family's compensation money, and caused the family to split, they would never have this kind of wealth. He knocked on the door, and my goodness, the money was well invested in nurturing the girl who answered. The artist must have looked at the design and thought, this girl is too normal. I'll just cut out a piece of her pants. There, perfect. Sangwon immediately asked what Jiyoung Yuji was doing at his uncle's house. The girl was a sight to behold. This was apparently the uncle's second home, and he demanded to know what she was doing there. She stammered, unsure of what to say. Just then, the villain of the story appeared, making it quite obvious what she was doing there. Sangwon ignored the couple, and asked where his uncle was. He was there to pay back the money. The girl with the exposed hip, Yuji, seemed to wonder why Sangwon was being so cold. Was he still thinking about her? Her fiant, Jung Hao, told her to stop staring at other men, because she would soon be his wife. What a despicable bastard, living the good life. Then, she did what I love most, she humiliated him. She said she was just observing how pathetic he looked in his filthy, unbranded clothes, still talking about paying back a debt. Her future cuckold of a fiend thanked her, saying that's how he liked her. And that's how I like it too, because the looks on their faces were about to be priceless. Our hero entered the living room to find his balding uncle, who introduced him as his nephew who now works in the city. The uncle's friend commented that people who work in the city earn a lot. Another man chimed in that he heard the old man's daughter also works in the city, and earns over 100,000 a month. Young man, you must be earning a lot too, right? John Hao, however, interjected that this horse works a whole month to earn 5,000. Even people who take care of pigs on a farm make almost that much. He put a hand on Sangwon's shoulder and said that after expenses, there must be nothing left of that 5,000. The guy was truly despicable, but that was some biting social commentary. Sangwon cut him off, saying he wasn't there for small talk. He just came to pay the debt. The uncle told him to relax, that he would charge interest anyway. There's no hurry, your family is in a difficult situation. Sangwon said they didn't need the charity, but the uncle insisted. Don't be so polite. You work hard to take care of your family, son. Sangwon insisted, you bald bastard, I'm here to pay. The uncle, focused on his game, said he had to enjoy these moments, but if he really wanted to pay, he should just make the transfer. Chang Hao handed him a notepad with the details. A second later, a transfer of 51,000 was made. 50,000 for the principal, plus the 1,000 in interest the man was going to charge. The uncle looked at his phone and was completely shocked, immediately turning to ask where the kid got the money. Our boy simply said his father works in the city. But John Hao was there, saying his family was just embarrassing themselves. Yesterday they begged for 50,000. Now he pulls out 51,000. He must be doing something shady. As Singwon was leaving, Yudi followed him outside, calling his name and telling him to stop acting like they didn't know each other. They grew up together, and she knew he'd liked her since childhood. However, she wanted him to know that she only saw him as a little brother, so he should stop thinking about being with her. She continued, saying that if people heard how he was acting, it would be bad for her reputation. Singwon just looked at her and asked, "What's this nonsense about me liking you? You should take a look in the mirror. In my book, you're registered as a gold digger." The girl exploded with rage. He told her to stop with the childhood talk. All they did was look at some cows and chase a frog as kids. None of it was special. At least back then, he said, "I thought you weren't the type to sell yourself for money and humiliate the poor. It's truly a disappointment. Anyway, I've realized you're good at being fake, so this has nothing to do with me anymore." She, however, wanted more humiliation. "Oh, you understand. You have no way of winning me over, so you're saying this to make me angry." Sangwon, looking confused, just said, "This woman is crazy." Seeing that she was being ignored, she got even angrier, and shouted for him to stand still and stop acting so high and mighty just because he went to college. "You're the perfect proof that getting good grades in school is useless. You're a total failure in life. Besides, I really don't like poor people. They suck up to, love the rich. That's why I am living in this 100 square meter house with the best food possible. While you, with your mother's hospital bills of 50,000, 100,000. You can't even afford it. You're a broke failure." Sangwon was losing his patience, and just asked if she had said enough. It's pathetic to see a frog at the bottom of a well, seeing a tiny piece of the sky and thinking it's something special. Not even the city girls I know are as idiotic and delusional as you. The girl, losing her temper, tried to slap him, but he simply stepped back. He said, "I may not have as much money or be as charming as your future husband, but at least I don't have to depend on someone rich to take care of myself. You should stop trying to humiliate me and take a good look in the mirror first." The system announced that by draining her psychologically and emotionally, an apartment would soon be unlocked. Our protagonist was a bit confused by this, but then he grabbed her hand and said, "The two of you should just stay locked in this house together, hurting each other, since you're both worthless." As he was walking down the street, a car sped past, splashing mud all over him. The driver then had the nerve to offer him a job carrying cement and blocks. Singwon simply replied, "Time is fair to everyone." At a nearby construction site, a foreman told him he could come back to work anytime. Our boy thanked him, and the system congratulated him for investing in the people around him. It seems that when he argued with the redhead, he had won the buildings that were under construction. The system praised him, saying that he only needed to do good for the population of this city to receive even more. He was a little confused, thinking that soon the whole world would be his. With that, we're back at the hospital. He brought another apple for his mother. Just then, the doctor, Dr. Lee, entered and announced that the surgery was a success. Her vital signs were stable, so she could go home. Singwon thought this was crazy. The woman just had surgery and was still recovering. It made no sense. They needed to do more tests. However, the grim-faced doctor said that her discharge had already been processed and ordered a nurse to help the woman pack her things. Singwon demanded to know what he meant, while his mother told him to be careful. The doctor said, "It's obvious. What don't you understand? Your mother has survived, so it's best to get her out of here before she consumes more of the hospital's resources." Furious, Singwon slammed a knife onto the table. The doctor thought he was going to be attacked, but Singwon was just cutting the apple. The doctor called him a lunatic and said he would call security. Meanwhile, his mother told him it was better to just go home and not cause trouble, saying she felt fine. Our hero said, "No way. You just had surgery, and your wounds haven't healed yet." The doctor, however, said that the mother understood everything and a good son should obey his mother. He then turned to the nurses and ordered them to get all these poor clothes out of here. They're bad luck. Singwon was on the verge of killing the bastard. He told his mother to eat the apple, as it would be a waste to throw it away, but he would resolve this shortly. She begged him not to fight with these people, that common people like them couldn't win. However, he told her not to worry, he wouldn't use force. Just then, the doctor was on his cell phone. "Yes, they've prepared everything for your friend's wife. You can bring her here. If she wants to stay for 100 days, she can, because that's how long it takes for bones to heal." On the other end of the line was Jung Hao, remarking that Dr. Lee worked very quickly. "Of course," Hang Dikai said. "They had to get Hang Singwon's poor family out of there, because they couldn't compare in generosity." While they took half a month to pay, he and his family had advanced everything that was needed. Hang Dekai scoffed, believing the fool Hang Sing-won couldn't possibly cause him trouble and would now learn his lesson. The doctor, holding the payment, thought to himself that the young man was good at business. Having witnessed everything, Hang Sing-won decided that if they wanted to play with money, he would play too. Soon after, someone knocks on the door of the hospital director's office. Hang Sing-won enters, and when the director tells him to go to reception like any other patient, Sing-won clarifies he is there to discuss donating a building to the hospital. The director, initially dismissive of the plainly dressed young man, becomes intrigued. Hang Sing-won explains he knows the hospital needs a new building for patients to rest, and that the new construction in a nearby town, valued at 1 million per building, would be perfect. All he asks for in return is the best possible treatment for patients and an investigation into corruption. The director dismisses the talk of corruption, stating that in his 10 years, they've never accepted bribes. Hang Sing-won then reveals that his own mother, who just had surgery, is being forced out. The director finds this unbelievable. Hang Sing-won plays a recording of the conversation between Dr. Lee and Hang Dekai. The director claims it must be edited. Unfazed, Hang Sing-won says that regardless of the recording's authenticity, his offer to donate the building is real. He immediately calls engineer Kang, a well-known figure, and instructs him to arrange the transfer of a building to the hospital. After a brief, skeptical conversation, Director Liu is stunned to realize he is indeed speaking with the famous engineer Kang and that the offer is legitimate. His demeanor changes instantly. Hang Sing-won repeats his condition: get rid of the dishonest doctors. When asked for his name, he simply calls himself the messenger of justice and leaves. Shortly after, Director Liu fires Dr. Lee, who falls to his knees, begging for his job. The director coldly reminds him that he didn't think of other families when he was ruining their lives. Consequences and karma. The next day at Hang Dekai's lavish home, he is relaxing when a relative bursts in, furious that his wife was kicked out of the hospital like a dog. A shocked Hang Dekai tries to call his contact, Dr. Lee, but the call goes unanswered. Back at Hang Sing-won's home, the opposite is happening. A full medical team arrives with advanced equipment, essentially bringing the hospital to his mother. She is shocked by the expense, but Hang Sing-won explains that Dr. Lee was fired for misconduct, and this is the hospital's way of compensating them. Just then, Hang Dekai arrives and confronts Hang Sing-won, angrily demanding to know what happened, and complaining that the 10,000 he spent on the special bed was for nothing. In front of his mother, Hang Sing-won feigns surprise, making Dekai inadvertently admit he was the one who tried to get her kicked out. Flustered, Dekai denies it and storms off, vowing that they will die poor. As he drives away, he is bewildered to see the prominent engineer Kang heading towards Sing-won's remote village. Engineer Kang arrives at the house with gifts to congratulate Hang Sing-won on the new road and building projects. To keep his new wealth a secret from his mother, Hang Sing-won quickly invents a story that Kang is just thanking him for helping with a car repair. He pulls Kang aside and quietly asks him to maintain his low profile, which the engineer agrees to with a wink. While driving, Hang Dekai receives a call informing him that he has been removed from a major road repair project because his team's qualifications suddenly failed to meet regulations. He rushes to meet with the project head, Mr. Zhao, and tries to bribe him, first offering gifts and then increasing his proposed profit share to 50. Mr. Zhao, who has no desire to anger someone associated with Engineer Kang, ignores him and has him thrown out. In the next scene, Mr. Zhao cheerfully enters a private room in a club where Hang Sing-won is sitting with Engineer Kang. Zhao heaps praise on the noble young man for helping the town. Playing along, Hang Sing-won states he only funded the road improvements because his aging parents had trouble walking. He then pointedly asks Mr. Zhao, "These roads won't deteriorate in less than a year, will they?" A nervous Mr. Zhao profusely promises to use only the highest quality materials, and to exceed all expectation. And now the doctor is scared of making a mistake. The system praises our hero for how he acted, spending little, while ensuring everything would be taken care of. He truly upheld his principles, and our hero thinks that everything is culminating in the perfect day. Something big was coming. Meanwhile, at his uncle's house, Hang Sing-won's former flame, Jian Yuti, is cursing out her fiancé, Jun Hao, calling him a failure. She screams that he just sits on the couch scrolling on his phone, not even washing a dish. If she had known he would be such a loser, she would have chosen Hang Sing-won instead. At least he's in the city, and has a real job. The insult must have struck a nerve, because he tells her to repeat what she said. She puffs out her chest, calling him useless again. She says he let a good opportunity slip through his fingers, and is worthless. If she had the chance, she would have knelt before their benefactor, Mr. Zhao, and sees the opportunity. She calls him trash and declares she's going to find Hang Sing-won, since they grew up together, and she's going to take advantage of the connection. But that won't be happening right now, as he grabs her by the neck and throws her to the ground. Damn, the poor girl is about to get a beating. Back at our hero's home, Engineer Kang hands a document to his parents. He explains that the new construction will be right next door. They will need to use 1 square meter of their property, and in return, the company will build them a brand new house as a bonus. His parents think it makes no sense, as if 1 square meter of land is worth that much money. The engineer, however, says that if the offer isn't acceptable, they can also provide monetary compensation. The two are left speechless, thinking that great fortune must have finally smiled upon them. They immediately tell Hang Sing-won to come and express his gratitude. A few days later, our hero is set to return to the big city. His mother tells him to take care of his health and not to overwork himself. If he ever gets tired, he can always come back home, which will now be a bigger house. He gives her a hug, tells her not to worry, and says he'll be back soon before saying his goodbyes. We cut to the VIP lounge at the airport, waiting for a flight. Suddenly, a girl wearing what seems like 2 clothing calls out to our hero. He immediately recognizes the slime girl, Liu Kaijian, and says he's heading home today. She then remembers hearing his mother was sick and asks if she's doing well now. He tells her not to worry, that his mother is already recovering. He asks what she's doing there, and she explains she was doing work for a rural revitalization campaign and was lucky to run into him. He laughs, saying it's quite a coincidence. She asks if he has any plans, which company he'll be working for now. He reveals it's no secret, he isn't joining any company because he's going to start his own. Feinkian says that if he needs a photographer or some editors who aren't extremely expensive, he just has to let her know. Suddenly, she gets a call. It's her boss. He immediately orders her to start a live stream, because a sponsor is willing to pay well. She tries to explain that she's about to board a plane, not to mention it's her day off. The boss, however, just laughs and says she doesn't get rest days. He reminds her that the company doesn't support her for nothing. If she's going to miss the plane, she should just take advantage of the situation and do a 10-hour live stream right there at the airport. Problem solved. Feinkian argues back that she's the one supporting the company, having maintained her top rank for the last 6 months. The damn boss says she'll do as he commands as long as she's under contract. He tells her to stop arguing, saying one more word will be considered a breach of contract. Defeated, she hangs up, saying she understands. Just then, Sing-won calls her name from the background, and her boss hears his voice. He comments that now it's clear why she's unavailable. You're probably not at the airport, but naked in bed with some guy. She protests, saying she already posted a photo from the airport on her social media, so his accusation makes no sense. He, however, says he'll only believe it if he sees it. Why don't you open a live stream and prove it? Shocked, the phone slips from her hand. Sing-won asks how much the contract termination fee is, declaring that he will pay it. Furthermore, he informs the boss that the call was recorded, and he will be sued for defamation. The boss scoffs, saying he must be crazy to think he has that kind of money, but Sing-won just hangs up on him. The slime girl, Liu Kaijian, asks if he's serious and tells him not to even think about it, saying she couldn't accept such a huge gesture. She insists the situation at the company isn't that bad, and while the boss is a problem, she earns a lot. She says she has already saved a good amount of money, and can slowly pay off the contract fee herself. Sing-won tells her not to worry. He's starting his own media company, and she can consider this in advance to get her to switch companies. She's confused, asking if he's gone mad. He proposes a special contract. Half of her earnings will go to her, and the other half will go towards paying off the debt from leaving her old company. Once it's all paid off, they'll switch to a 70-30 split. She smiles, calling him a noble-hearted person. He asks if 70-30 is too little. She says no, it's actually very good, and he didn't need to help her so much. A 50 contract was already considered great, and since he's paying her debts, a 20 cut would have been normal. Sing-won then says she was the only one at the company who never treated him badly, so he's willing to return the kindness. Besides, he sees a bright future for her, making it an opportunity for them to make money together. Blushing, she thinks he's just saying that, but she knows she's the one benefiting the most. She smiles and agrees. And just like that, they're at the company building, face to face with the boss. He scoffs that the bitch needs a reality check, that her mind must be clouded by lust to think this bankrupt guy has money to do anything. Sing-won, however, just tells him to shut up and call the legal department. He's not there to argue. The boss stands up and asks if he knows how much her contract is worth. He knows the kid recently came into some money, But those who get rich suddenly also lose it quickly. He warns that this decision will lead him to a life of ruin, drowned in debt. Sing-won retorts that money is a renewable resource. The more you spend, the more you have. So you don't have to worry. He then asks if the boss is scared, noting he seems agitated. The boss tells him to shut up and not to forget he was once a dog who obeyed him. Sing-won warns him that if he says something like that again, he could face a defamation lawsuit. With that, the scene shifts to the conference room. The contracts are on the table, ready to be signed. The boss asks Liu Kleinkian if she's really going to commit this folly, throwing herself away for a few bucks only to come back crying for more money later. She simply replies that she doesn't care, and signs the document. The boss, fuming, asks when the payment will be made. Sing-won informs him the payment was made a minute ago. If he doesn't believe it, he can check with the finance department. Standing by the window, Sing-won says he sees a bright future. The system then congratulates him, stating that he is learning the essence of the more you spend, the more you earn. Now that the draining of the old company is possible, he receives a 999 reward. Sometime later, outside, Kleinkian the friend calls out to Liu Kleinkian. She heard that she quit, and asks if they'll still be able to see each other in the future. Just then, Sing-won answers for her, asking why not. He points to the building across the street, and says they'll be right over there, so she just has to take a short walk. He gets a call. It seems the person who prepared the documents for the building is telling him to come pick them up. He thanks them, says he's looking forward to the visit, and tells the two girls he has to go. Liu Kleinkian then reveals to her friend that it was Sing-won who paid her termination fee. Kleinkian is shocked that he really had that much money, remarking that you really can't judge a book by its cover. The scene changes to a luxury real estate office where someone is telling an employee not to be disrespectful to a VIP client. In front of a large architectural model, a man tells a woman not to worry, that he will secure the deal. Suddenly, a group of people comes running down the hall. A manager is briefing the staff, telling them that Mr. Hang, who bought a 300 million villa, is coming. He tells everyone to welcome him with the utmost attention. He turns to a specific female employee, and tells her to be especially attentive. But she's worried. The manager explains he is a mysterious tycoon and no one has a photo of him, as wealthy people at that level hide their presence. The car pulls up. Sing-won gets out, and sees everyone lined up, waiting for him. Of course, he doesn't know they're waiting for him. He assumes they're waiting for the company boss, or someone important, so he just walks in. He sees that it's a high-end sales office, but oddly, there isn't a single employee in sight. He looks around and notes the good location and luxurious feel. Just then, the young woman named Irene appears and asks what kind of house he's interested in. But before she can continue, the manager rushes over. "Irene, you fool. Come here. I told you not to accept just anyone. Why did you let this broke-looking guy in?" Slime was almost fooled, thinking that from a marketing standpoint, this was truly a golden opportunity. Future bath water sellers were asking Slime what they should do, worried that if they accepted this sin they would lose everything. But the bold one told everyone to just accept it. And, sure enough, when our protagonist checked his phone, there they were, already shaking back and forth on camera. Rockets of gifts were flying in from one side and the other. Everyone was buzzing with curiosity, who exactly was this mysterious Odin group? It seemed they were clashing head-on with Group Meow, the reigning champions. That was insane. Meow was the biggest. But one wasn't concerned at all. He was busy thinking about what furniture to buy. He couldn't care less about the battle. In contrast, Nuolan was anxious, pointing out that their side was being slaughtered. Maybe, she suggested, it was time to invest a little to pull the girls out of this abyss. But one shook his head. No, they needed to conserve energy, wait until the very peak of attention, when everyone was laughing at the girls, and then make the harvest. He sent her back, reminding her to check on the engineers' morale. They couldn't be discouraged. Meanwhile, across the street, the rival boss was already popping champagne, celebrating early, convinced victory was guaranteed. So what if they lost that slime girl? They would still make a fortune now, and prove they were still at the top. But in the corner, Uncle Lee scolded him for celebrating something so foolish. They were only crushing a brand new company. And Uncle Lee wasn't stupid. He realized losing Slime was a huge blow. Even if she had paid off all her debts, she was still their top performer. Just then, he saw an online comment claiming the Odin Group was actually backed by Slime. Apparently, a wealthy shareholder had paid off her debts and partnered with her, which explained why the girl's style resembled hers. Uncle Lee immediately demanded to know why they lost their #1 star to a competitor. The boss tried to cover it up, saying she had just been tricked by a rich investor and would soon realize she wasn't qualified to run a company. Uncle Lee almost agreed, until the office door burst open with alarming news. The troll manager had debut, recalling the flood of rockets they'd taken before. He reassured everyone, no one would throw away 30 million just to win this fight. That was absurd. But Uncle Lee was firm. Under no circumstances could they lose. Yet when another employee showed his phone, the rockets were rising again. The troll insisted it was just a wave and ordered his nephew to end the fight. Back at Odin Group, Slime was astonished by Wang's speed. He was spending like crazy, but the system rewarded him constantly. She begged him to stop, he had already spent enough. But in the battles, his spending crushed the opposition so thoroughly that their progress bar was a tiny speck in the corner. He casually entered streams, dropping 500 rockets, then 5,000. Slime was sure this was over the line. But Wang remained calm. He was simply showing how it's done. When she worried about excess, he reminded her of their plan to become untouchable. She agreed and went to cheer the girls up. Alone, Wang looked at his tablet. This was the style he wanted. He was preparing to build something massive within his company. He checked his account. He had more than enough to do it. Across the media, people were asking, who is this Odin Group? Even the parent company of the platform itself was profiting enormously. The Tiger app owners remarked that no one had ever grown so fast. Odin streamers gained 2 million followers in a single day. Meanwhile, at Odin, the girls collapsed in exhaustion but lit up when Wang entered, rushing to hug him. He reminded them to calm down. Earnings from contracts would be divided fairly, as promised. They had feared he would keep it all since he had spent the money, but his generosity stunned them. Slime watched silently, deeply moved. Over at Group Meow, things were grim. Comments online mocked them for losing every peak battle against a rookie company. One secretary timidly suggested maybe they should even change their name, since Odin had publicly mocked them. The boss raged, slapping his useless manager for disappearing for 5 days and turning the company into a disgrace. Uncle Lee fumed. If that top girl Ga had stayed, none of this would have happened. After all, she had recruited most of those talents. Wang, on the other hand, stayed unfazed. Had he really spent 1.6 billion? Slime panicked. But he clarified, he only spent 200 million, the rest was from the fans. That calmed her somewhat, though she still felt it wasn't a small amount. But Wang insisted this sacrifice would yield far greater returns. Success breeds success. They only needed to keep the momentum until they reached the top. Then came a call from the renovation company. His mansion was being rebuilt into something like a fortress. Even the butler next door, refined and polite, came over with a gift of premium wild mountain wine. Wang joked about needing a maid instead of a butler, but thanked him warmly. Soon after, Wang received a classic invitation, a high school reunion. He knew such events were mostly about the successful humiliating the failures. But this year, he smiled, he had nothing to fear. In fact, he accepted immediately, leaving others wondering if it was because she would be there. Slime waved him off cheerfully as he prepared to attend. Wang sensed tonight would be profitable. But waiting outside were 3 familiar faces in red clothing, mocking him about stepping out of an expensive car. Some suspected he had a rich sugar mommy, or even a sugar daddy. Wang smirked and stoked the fire, joking that if he could find a rich patron, it just proved his capability. After all, they couldn't. The slime girl, Liu Qingqian, is falling for it, thinking that from a marketing perspective, this battle is a golden opportunity. Her new streamers, the future bath water sellers, ask her what they should do, worried that if they accept this battle, they'll lose. But the boss lady tells everyone to accept it immediately, and start shaking their butts. Just kidding. She just told them to accept. But in the end, when our hero looks at his phone, there they are, shaking it from side to side. Rockets are flying from one side, and rockets are flying from the other. Everyone is curious. Who is this Odin Group? It seems they are going head to head with the Meow Group. This is insane. The Meow Group is the biggest on the platform. However, Hang Singwon is busy thinking about what furniture he's going to buy, and other things, not even paying attention to the battle. Liu Qingqian enters and tells him they are being massacred. The Meow Group really came prepared. She asks if maybe it's time to start investing a little to pull the girls out of limbo. But he says no. They need to conserve their energy and wait a little longer. When the peak moment of attention arrives, when everyone is laughing at them, that's when they'll strike. He tells her to go back and make sure the streamers' morale is high because they can't get discouraged. Meanwhile, across the street, the boss of the Meow Group is popping champagne, saying there's nothing better than celebrating early when victory is guaranteed. So what if they lost the damn slam girl? They are going to make a ton of money now, and prove they're still on top. His uncle, however, tells him to cut the crap. They are beating a brand new company, and he's celebrating such a foolish thing. The uncle isn't a fool. He knows that losing Liu Kleinkian was a huge loss, even if she paid off all her debts. Just then, he sees a comment online revealing that the person behind the Odin company is Liu Kleinkian. It seems a shareholder paid her debts and they joined forces, which is why the new girl's style is somewhat reminiscent of hers. The uncle immediately demands an explanation for why they lost their number one streamer to the competition. The foolish boss is now squirming. He can't let his uncle know he messed up. He tries to save face, saying, "Oh, that silly girl was tricked by some rich guy who paid her debts, but she'll soon see she's not qualified to run a company." The uncle seems to think his explanation makes sense. But right at that moment, someone bursts through the door, warning of an absurd situation. The boss immediately has déjà vu, remembering the rocket barrages that defeated him. He tries to stay calm, saying no one would invest, say, 30 million just to win this fight. It makes no sense for these new streamers. The uncle, however, just looks at him and warns that they cannot lose under any circumstances. The boss guarantees it will never happen. But the man holding the phone shows him that it was starting again. Rockets were flying. He tries to calm everyone, saying it's just one wave, and tells his nephew to end this fight. Back at the Odin company, Liu Kleinkian is impressed with the speed of our hero's fingers. As he spent, the system obviously rewarded him. She's begging him to stop, saying he's already spent too much, and they should hold back a bit. In these big battles, there's a progress bar, but he spent so much more than the other guys that their bar was a tiny sliver in the corner. The man was just entering live streams and sending 500 rockets, 500 rockets, 500 rockets, 50,000 rockets. She was sure it was just like that other day. He's calm, saying he's just showing them how it's done. She, however, thinks this has gone way beyond the limit. Suddenly, he calls her name. She stands up, asking for his orders. He tells her to remember that their plan is to become untouchable. She says she understands, and he tells her to go back to the girls and keep their spirits high. As soon as she leaves, he's looking at a tablet, saying this is the style he wants. It seems the boy wants to create a sort of girl group within his company. He checks his phone and sees he has more than enough money for it. Meanwhile, at other media companies, everyone is wondering who this Odin group is. The owners of the streaming platform itself must be making a killing. They're all talking about how no one has ever grown so fast. These new streamers gained 2 million followers in a single day. At our hero's company, the rocket barrage doesn't stop and the girls are all breathless, sweaty, and exhausted. As soon as he enters, they all run up to him, wanting to talk and hug him. He tells them to calm down, and that the earnings from their contracts would be divided according to their agreement. They had been worried he would take everything they earned since he was the one who spent all the money. The system praises the boy's kindness and gives him 500 coins. While the girls are all celebrating, Liu Kleinkian is just observing. The ones who are not happy are the people from the Miao group, who are seeing all the comments online mocking them. They picked a fight with a brand new company and still lost every single battle. Just then, a secretary appears, suggesting they should perhaps change their name. The Odin group made a post saying it would be better for them to change their name, and she doesn't know why. The boss is fuming while the uncle is shaking with rage. The girl then slams the door and leaves. The uncle slaps the boss across the face, demanding to know how he could disappear for 5 days and turn the company into a laughingstock. The fool, on the ground, mutters that they profited from her departure, but the uncle dares him to repeat that nonsense. If Kleinkian were still at the company, none of this would have happened, since she was the one who recruited all the top girls. The uncle sits down, wondering how all this madness happened so suddenly. How did they lose a girl like that? And now this bastard has appeared to destroy their company. The foolish boss, holding his face, says the guy seemed like a loser before. The uncle, however, puts on a refined act, saying he's told him 1,000 times not to discriminate between the noble and the poor. He also heard that he gave Kleinkian a hard time when she was here, even though she was their number one streamer. Back at the Odin Media Company, Kleinkian is asking if it's okay for him to spend so much money. 6 billion. To be exact. He says it was nothing. It seems he actually spent 200 million, and the rest came from fans. She thinks that's still a lot, while Hang Sing-wang thinks to himself that he never imagined he would one day say such an amount wasn't much. He tells her to relax. This sacrifice will bring much more profit in the future. He tells her she should be smiling, because a bright future awaits them. As the saying goes, success creates success. He just wants to keep the momentum going. From here on, things would only get easier until they reach the top. His phone rings. It's the renovation company. He tells Liu Kangqian he has to go, saying his goal is to make money with everyone so they can all be happy. We cut to our hero's new home. Several men are working on the renovation, turning the place into a mansion. He's directing them when a butler arrives, radiantly saying he's a neighbor who came to visit. Our boy recognizes him as the butler from the house next door. The man was so refined, maybe he should get a butler too. Or maybe a maid. He apologizes for being dirty, and the man says it's no problem, handing him a box of premium wild mountain ginseng. Later that afternoon, he's exhausted after working all day mostly just ordering others around. He receives a call with the most classic of invitations, a high school reunion. He knows these types of reunions are just an opportunity for the successful to humiliate the less fortunate. However, it's not like he has anything to fear now. He smiles and says that this year, he'll go. Back with the butler, he reports to his mistress, Azusa, that the new neighbor seemed kind, polite, and didn't look down on him for being a simple butler. Moreover, he took off his glove and cleaned his hands before accepting the box, which shows he's a well-mannered boy. Just then, Azusa senses something and looks back to see a couple arriving. It's her brother and his fiancée, Yuliu. Azusa tells them she's told them 1,000 times not to come here. Her blonde brother asks, "What are you talking about? What's with the attitude? This is your future sister-in-law." The blonde, Yuliu, puts on a crocodile tear act, asking if Azusa has something against her. Azusa turns away as Yuliu says she seems to be caught in trouble between the siblings, and should probably leave. The brother, however, puts a hand on her shoulder, telling her his sister is just being dramatic. Azusa is still angry, and her brother asks if she's jealous. He reminds her that to inherit the family fortune, she has to get married. Azusa scoffs at the idea of jealousy, saying she just turned 20, and is far from thinking about marriage. She's not an opportunist who would marry just anyone for an inheritance. The day of the reunion arrives. Liu Kangqian drops him off, saying she'll pick him up later. He has a feeling he's going to make a lot of money today. He notices 3 people standing out front. A girl in red recognizes him immediately. Why did you get out of such an expensive car?" A red-haired friend next to her speculates, "Must be a rich old woman." Another one chimes in, "It's not always a woman. Sometimes it's a man. The world is very open today. There are many possibilities." Our hero, however, approaches them and adds fuel to the fire. "If I manage to get a sugar mama, it's because I'm capable. Apparently, you guys aren't.